Hi folks, I'm Emily.
And I'm Mel.
And this is Oh My Word. And have any of you ever noticed how confusing mirrors are? Okay, let me walk through this with you because you can sometimes see someone else in a mirror, like who's behind you, even though you can't see yourself, but they can see you because you can see them in the mirror. And I find this endlessly fascinating.
I just find it creepy. But sometimes I'll just put images in the mirror for Emily to just be fascinated by because then it keeps her distracted.
Okay, but why can they see me if I can't see me?
The same way that when you play hide and seek when you're 3 and you close your eyes, you can't be seen.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's magic.
It's magic.
As opposed to science, which is what Chemical Hearts kind of keeps going back to in a way that I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah.
So Chemical Hearts is a movie based off of a book called Our Chemical Hearts. I wonder why they got rid of our. Anyway.
Get rid of the.
The book is written by Crystal Sutherland. The movie is currently streaming on Amazon. And it stars Lily Reinhart and Austin Abrams. And it's about a high school transfer student who's the girl, Grace?
Yeah.
Finds a new passion when she begins to work on the school's newspaper. Also, the boy named Henry has never been in love, but things are about to change for him. It's rated R. And our personal ratings, violence is a 0, so good job, movie people. However, language is a 4 and romance is a 4.
So not good job.
Yeah. Especially 4 on the romance. So violence is 0 because there's just none. And sometimes we talked about All the Bright Places a few weeks ago, which sort of has a similar vibe. And people get beat up, in school. There's school bullying. There's nothing like that in this movie. So that's pretty cool. Language is a 4 because they use all the bad words. Not all the bad words, but a lot of them and frequently enough. So language is a 4. And then romance is a 4 because they have, not only do they have sex, again, in All the Bright Places, which I'm going to go back to because these two movies were so similar in their vibe and their tone that I couldn't help making comparisons when I watched it. But in this one, not only do they have sex, but we see, they're under the covers and we only see their faces pressed close to each other.
We see him without a shirt on, which is not anything until you know what the scene is.
Yes.
Because if he'd be in a bathing suit going swimming, everyone's just like, he's wearing his bathing suit.
Right.
But you know what the scene is. So him without a shirt on, you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah. And they're making sex noises, which is uncomfortable enough. But when it's an adult movie, that's one thing. But when this is a movie for teens, and if you're an adult watching this movie, I don't know how old the actors are, but even if they're 19 or whatever, they're supposed to be playing 17. So now you as an adult are watching children have sex.
Yeah,
and it's weird.
Yeah.
It's not too long, but it is there and it is uncomfortable and wrong.
I just
think it's wrong. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. That was so unnecessary. I mean, the whole film in general
was unnecessary.
Not say unnecessary, but so apparently the ratings for the books, from what I saw from the books, it seemed like a lot of readers really liked a lot of things that were in the book, but I don't know that a lot of that transferred over to the film. And also part of it, calling it the Chemical Hearts thing, they reduced everything to chemicals. So it's like, oh, you're feeling love right now because the dopamine in your brain is making you excited, which sure, I guess that's true on a scientific level, but that negates the fact that when people do build a relationship that then becomes love, it's not because there's dopamine anymore at that point. Because what about the days when they're both pissed off at each other, but they still love each other? Because it's shared experience and it's shared values and it's all the other things that go into a relationship. It's not just a chemical reaction might be your initial attraction, but it's not, that does not equal, if your love is only just a chemical reaction, then I would say probably it's not love.
Yeah.
And also it sounds like one of these things like, oh, look, we're going to have all these great lines that are going to come out of this. But when you're actually looking at them, you're like, what are you even saying?
Right. Like, it could have, I think one of the times that it's brought up is when Henry is going through heartbreak and his sister, who's either a nurse or training to be a doctor, I wasn't quite sure, is explaining to him, like, look, it's all just chemical reactions. And there is something about that that's like, okay, your sister's trying to comfort you and it really sucks when you have heartbreak, but what she's basically saying is it's something you can get over. Okay, fine. But actually that moment in the film really bothered me because he's going upstairs because they've just broken up, and he needs to be healed. And then his parents are about to go up, and both he and then his sister say that they don't understand because they've always had a perfect marriage. And I feel like it would be such an amazing moment for the parents to come upstairs and say, look, I know it looks like on the outside we have a perfect marriage, but here's why. Because we've worked through it, because we taught, like, what a great moment for growth and explaining how even the most perfect relationships have struggles, but the point is that you work through it. But instead, the sister goes up and is like, nah, it's all just in your body, so you're going to be fine. Yeah.
And it's also, okay, as a young adult writer and as someone who has written a book that revolves around death, I understand that we have, especially for teens, that there's always these dark stories that we want to tell, and death is a big thing because that's when teens are like the first age that you can really understand the death, the permanence of death, and the loss that comes with death. Mm-hmm. But why is everything so dark all the time? Like, here, first of all, the girl, Grace, she's walking around in her dead boyfriend's clothes, which is something we don't know right away, but we kind of learn that she's living in his room and she's wearing his clothes. It's kind of part of the big reveal of why she can't really love Henry. Why is nobody getting her professional help? That is a time when professional help is needed. Not all the other times with everyone with their fragile egos and need to go to therapists all the time because that's just like a thing now. Which I can't find bashing on it, but it's like she actually needs professional help. So it is kind of like All the Bright Places because they're not getting real help when they need it.
Yes.
But this one, All the Bright Places, we don't know that there's an adult there to spot when he needs the help. Here, there actually is an adult to see. She's living in the house. The boyfriend's parents kind of took her in because her mom couldn't, whatever, but they see that she's not healing, and they see that no one can look at her and be like, oh, she must love our son so much because she's walking around in his clothes. Like, no, you're supposed to say that's not healthy. She actually needs help.
Right.
And even if we threw it in like, oh, we set her up with someone and she won't show up, then at least we know that you did. That's really irresponsible that no one is getting her the help. She needs help. She's like, oh, she's so broken. So like, okay, it becomes a great line. Like, oh, she's so broken. She's not gonna be like Henry's like, he does this art, right? That you break a vessel, you break this like vase thing and you put it together with the gold lines, which is Japanese art or something. Mm-hmm. So it's beautiful and it works really well for imagery, but you can't just do imagery. Like there has to be something real. And it's not, oh, she's broken. You can't just fix me with your gold lines.
Yes, exactly.
But you're not getting help. Why are you not getting help? And that is the moment where you're like, you need professional help. No, I can't fix you with gold lines. You are beyond my pay grade right now. And it's not like, it's just not there. And it's just so that's first of all. So fine. So whatever, that's not there. And then also from different reviews that I saw from the book. And before you're like, oh, the film's not the book and the book's not the film. And no, it's much better, but they just didn't get it right. Well, we saw the film. And many people only saw the film. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Yes.
He's got his two friends. So he has a female friend and a male friend. And those are his two friends that like his whole life is basically his school writing, the newspaper, and he's going to get good grades and blah, whatever. And he's got his two friends. I saw a lot of reviews on the book that they're like, oh, we love their friendship with each other, whatever. That is not in the film at all. To the point where the male character, the male friend, is almost irrelevant.
I didn't even know his name.
Yeah, we're like, who is he again? Like, what is his purpose in this film? We have no idea. And the girlfriend, like the female friend, is basically only there to show us a lesbian love story.
Right.
Which is like, whose story are you telling right now?
Yeah, it was weird. We see her a few times with this girl that she's like had a little bit of a thing with in the past. But I don't care about either of them because I don't know his friend. The only thing we know about her, in fact, is that she's had this on again, off again thing with this other girl. And I guess they're all in the newspaper together, but we don't know anything about her. So I don't care about her relationship because I don't care about her. I don't know who she is.
Yeah. There's also there's no flashbacks of them growing up together or seeing how they all saw each other through whatever. Or
right.
There's no foundation for their friendship. So it is true. So his friends are also irrelevant to us.
Yeah. The whole story actually, it almost didn't need any other characters. It could have just been this boy and this girl because none of them really say or do anything much except, there's nothing really happens in this movie. I compare it to All the Bright Places, but All the Bright Places still doesn't live up to the book. But the movie, there's, you see their relationship growing. There's a little bit more context. You see some of the other people in their life. Still not as full as the book, but a little bit more than this. I felt like Chemical Hearts, she doesn't like him, and then suddenly they're together, and then they're not. And a few things happen in between. I just, what was the point?
Yeah, and there could have been so much more with the sister also. Because, I mean, if he's willing to talk to her about stuff like this, that shows that they do, it would seem they have a strong relationship. So why are we not seeing more about what the relationship is? Besides for the sister just saying love is a bunch of chemicals. And, like, even at the end, what is she, like, Grace says to him, like, you're the most wonderful collection of atoms I've ever met. Like, wow, is that supposed to be romantic? Because not. Like, okay. But it's also, it's like, why is it not? So one of the things, ironically, because she's wearing the boy clothes all the time, so she's very dressed down. He's also very dressed down. So that, as far as that goes, it's a little bit easier on the eyes because you're not seeing these like super slutty looks or like, oh, look, I'm so hot looks. Like they're not going for that, which is good.
And real.
Yeah. And it's like her hair's always up in a bun and okay, obviously she doesn't care about herself, so that's why it's like that. But it was kind of nice to see that it wasn't just all about looks and the outer stuff. But why is it not like, oh, I'm going to try to heal now through something positive? There's no building that's going on. As far as like recovery through becoming more, recovery through, like she's not a support group or even like, I know that kind of gets cliche, the support group, but there's a reason why support groups exist because people do, well, other people do need each other. I was like waiting for you to say that. But there are people that do need each other. No, but especially someone who's going through a grief like this. Absolutely. And she was so convinced, like she's always loved him and she was convinced they were going to get married. Yeah. So for a 17-year-old, it does seem like your entire world is over. Also because, but why is no one saying, look, you're going through this crazy thing at 17 and you're suffering more than anybody should ever have to suffer. But 17 years is such a small part of what your life is going to be. And use this now. You know, maybe you want to look into helping others who've gone through this. So you're going to use your experience now to, again, for something building and a positive thing. Right. It's always like the entire film just keeps going to like being a teenager is so hard. There's so much darkness in being a teenager. They keep saying that without saying, what about the part where you're like, teenagers have so much passion and they have so much energy and we could do stuff. Like adults are old and tired and slow and teenagers are not. Like, there's no positive.
Yeah. So it had this, the whole time there was this weird vibe and I don't, no, maybe this is the most reason why it reminded me of All the Bright Places. And it wasn't dark. You know, it wasn't like a dark, gritty Batman type movie, but it wasn't bright. Like, you know what I mean? Everything was sort of muted, but not just in the colors. They didn't really open their mouths very wide when they spoke. Everything was sort of monotone. There's just like this muted feel about it, which maybe was supposed to be representative of, again, being a teenager is hard. Right. And being a teenager, yes, is hard. But you know what else is hard? Being a child and being an adult. Yeah. Because life is hard. And I know how deeply people feel things as a teenager. And I don't want to disregard what teenagers feel because I've been a teenager and I know that, I mean, when you're 7 and your best friend gets a sparkly pencil and you don't, that is a huge deal. And we can look at it when we're adults and say, okay, it's not a huge deal, but at the time it is. So things that happen as a teenager are just as real as things that happen as an adult. And of course, her boyfriend was killed in a car accident. So it's a big deal, but it's so, I mean, that's what it is. It's just so depressing because there's no avenue for hope. It's not, okay, life, and I'm not saying everything has to be, oh, everything's going to get better. Because it's not that everything's going to get better, but maybe that you need more purpose to life. Because if life is just about, oh, everything's a chemical reaction, well, no wonder you think life is so sad because you don't have anything bigger or greater. But if life is about like some sort of big moral purpose and how you can change the world, then your life is hard right now and it will always maybe be hard and maybe you'll always feel the loss of this boyfriend. But there are still things you can do. Like, I don't know, focus on being the one who lived. I don't know. It was just...
There's not tools for coping also.
No.
Like, yeah, being a teenager is hard because you're going through so many changes and you don't know how to handle it. And you are starting to understand. It's almost like your brain is almost too advanced for you at that point because you are understanding death, but you're not really able to get it. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean because you're still just 15, 16, 17. And it's so... There's so much more in life. So not to negate it all because you're an adult in a child's body almost. Or like you're becoming an adult and you're still in a child's body. Like some adults are always like that, but it's like, why are there not, there's not tools for coping and there's not finding meaning in dark times. There's none of that stuff. It's just like being a teenager is so hard, so hard, so hard. Like, if so teenagers watching that, what do you want their takeaway to be? Like a validation that they're having a hard time? Good. But now it comes after that.
Yes. I think that's important that whenever people make anything, the question should be, okay, what is someone taking away from this? And then,
and it doesn't have to be messagey.
No, it doesn't be a message, but people are going to, what are you trying, when people tell stories, it's very rare that they just think, oh, I have this idea for a fairy tale. Usually it's, I have this idea for a fairy tale because I want to tell people that there's hope, or because I want people to be happy. There's usually a because. What was the because of this? And maybe the book offers more. I am totally open to the idea that the movie, I mean, because maybe his friends do offer something and show like, oh, you can have friendship. So that's one of the things that helps through the tough teen years. But we don't get to see the friendship.
Yeah, it's just not. I mean, it does seem like what are you saying here? It did feel a lot like, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Like, we have this crazy emotional story, but what? Like, what is it? Yeah. I mean, it was interesting, actually, that it was told from a male POV, because you don't usually see that with contemporary romance stories, because usually focus on the girl and her friends. And it wasn't. Focus on the boy was kind of it was interesting that she chose that. But also, especially being a teenager is so painful, and she is going through something so painful, you have to give her meaning. You have to find something positive to focus on, and there has to be a meaning outside of love. And sure, people don't want to just be like, oh, don't worry, the sun will rise tomorrow, right? You don't want those cliches, but what is getting you past today? Like, it doesn't make sense that anything except for the fact, the body works chemicals, that the body sleeps and wakes up and slips and wakes up, gets her from one day to the next. So that's the point. Oh, I'm only drifting. I'm not getting from one day to the next. So what will get you from one day to the next?
Yeah.
We have to ask that question and have some sort of answer. And there isn't. Even if I don't like your answer, there is no answer.
Yeah. Which is, just because you just almost touched on it. I mean, already the ratings are so high that we can't really recommend it for young adults, but they do talk about suicide. Yeah. No one says that they're suicidal, but they do talk about it. There's also drugs and drinking.
Oh, yeah.
So there are additional things that make this
not ideal.
Not really ideal for young adults. Also, I think it's not ideal for young adults I don't think romance is good for young adults because there's so much more, and you're not really ready when you're 15, 16, 17, even frankly, sometimes when you're 20 or 21 for romance to be the central focus of your life, because you don't know who you are yet. And this movie is just a romance, but it's not even like a fun, it's in the 18th century and there's like horses and fun stuff kind of romance. It's like a sad, depressing, we have nothing else in life but each other, but ultimately we don't even have each other.
It just seems like one of those ones that's just good for lines and stuff. And it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I'm sure there were other things to say on it, but I don't even remember. And like, who even cares?
You know what I do care about though? No. Perla beads. Okay. You know those things where like you have the shape and then you put the beads and then you iron it and you make a thing? And I'm just thinking like this was really depressing. So maybe to get out of a funk, we could go, okay, what if we decorate and like we could put one, it's like you could still have your space, but it'd be like colorful space and there's holes in it so we could talk, but there'd still be sort of like a barrier between us. I'm going to need some more beads. Okay, I'm going to go get more beads and sign off, and we'll see you guys next time.
And I'm going to put anti-glue on the, whoever she wants to glue that stuff.
Thanks for listening. Cheers.
Oh My Word podcast is brought to you by the pearl-clutching basement dwellers at Oh My Word. Follow us on Instagram for updates at Oh My Word Podcast, or like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For full episode notes and detail, visit eltenenbaum.com. Music is by Tim Burke. Sound is by Gabriel Yaffe. See you next time.